test. Hey, good evening, everybody. This is Jeff, Junior Hockey Advisor. Monday night. uh, I don't know if I'm cut out for this. The last few times I've been trying to broadcast, it's been tough. I took a complete cup of coffee about 15 minutes ago and dumped it on all of my equipment. And I'm usually pretty cognizant. You see, I usually sit it away from me, but I dumped a whole coffee across everything. And so now I'm on plan B backup. So hopefully we can have some fun and we can still get through this without my computer sizzling and steaming and asking for cream and sugar. So anyway, tonight, what I thought we'd do, first of all, this is Junior Hockey Advisor Jeff Colson. We're on our discussion group. We're on YouTube. We're on LinkedIn. We're on Twitter. And what we do is we talk about the process. We talk about the getting from 16s to 18s, 18s to juniors, and getting to juniors from prep, from high school, from U18, wherever you're going. Talking about the junior process, the level of juniors, and how you can utilize juniors to make your move and ascend up to the college ranks. That's the focus usually of the Sunday night or Monday night broadcast. And then, of course, we do other broadcasts. We do Wednesdays, we do Junior Hockey Live, where we actually talk about specific leagues and break them down. And then from time to time, we do one-on-ones with me, and that's called one-on-ones with Jeff Colson. And we interview different people in the hockey industry related to juniors and college hockey. So we got plenty of content. If you're not a part of our YouTube group, please like and subscribe to YouTube. It really helps us. We're trying to close the gap to get to that 1,000. I guess that's the magical number to start getting some different algorithms and getting involved more. And then, of course, Junior Hockey Advisor at Facebook. You can jump on our discussion group, and you can jump in on our other page, which is just the page, the Junior Hockey Advisor page. So get involved if you can. And for those of you who are out there, if you're members, we're going to try something new tonight. If you want to get on and actually talk instead of just texting, shoot me a comment on the screen you're watching. Just shoot me a comment, and I'll grab that comment and I'll send you a link, and you can actually jump on live, and we'll see if that works. And if you see me with a fire extinguisher or a mop, one of the two, you know I'm still having problems here. I literally, if I could show you the rest of the room right now, it's all my scouting notes. It's all everything I had on the two desks. And I say two desks because as soon as I started cleaning up, I started setting things on the other desk. They were sopped, so got everything over there sopped too. So it didn't go so well. It didn't go so well. So we'll see if we can still have a good night. So jump on, tell me who you are, even in the comments. If you got a question, tonight's premise is let's try to give back a little bit to this new audience. In the last 2 years, we went from one to 1,000, and now we're in that close to 8,000 on the discussion group, 6,000 on the other group or on the page, and we've also got all of our other sources. So we're talking about thousands of people that weren't here a year ago and 2 years ago. And I thought maybe what we do is we take some time to actually help them with some of the things that you've learned through this great community we've built. I don't usually get on the discussion group that much. I monitor it, and I make sure that the wackos of the world don't attack us, because that's part of social media these days, is trying to keep the extremes away and just trying to stay within some sense of normalcy. But I try not to comment much because you guys do such a great job of commenting yourself. You guys give so much great feedback to people with questions. I know that the questions have dropped down a lot, but when you guys do jump on a question, there's 30, 40, 50 great comments that come through, sometimes 70, 100, and they're usually pretty spot on what's going on in the hockey world. So it's a good feeling from my side, but it also shows that it's a testament of how strong a collective voice is versus just one person, myself, trying to feed back all the information. So once again, jump on, tell me where you're at, and tell me where you're watching from. I'll be glad to get you on if you want to go on. I'm actually just checking to see. I've got to use an alternate source to actually check notes and to make sure we're up and running and everything's right. My handy phone did not get messed up. So while we're doing that, I was going to kind of walk through some of the other shows. Please jump on with comments. I'd love to hear from you. Know what you think. Know what kind of comments you can make about how you've picked something up, a tip. Maybe you needed some help with something in the structure of hockey. Throw it on there. If you want to come on live, I'd love to try that out for the first time too. And let's see what's going on. All right, it's good to see Cheskus coming on from Massapequa. Well, if you haven't been on before, Ches, good to see you. We've got a decent audience building, and it's so interesting though, because when we're consistent on Sunday night, Monday nights, our audience is 10 times bigger. And when I come on, at the last second, it's a smaller audience that kind of grows as the night goes on. So glad to have all of you on. And I'll give you an idea what I've been working on lately. We have finished the rough draft of the Junior Hockey Advisor book, Untitled, and we're going to come out with a series of short stories that will help people understand the process and go through some of the lessons and some of the things I've learned over the years with the process of moving up the ladder. It's way too long right now. It's War and Peace, so we've got to actually edit it down, and I appreciate my wife. She does a really good job of helping with that. That's always nice to have an attorney in the family that knows how to write versus me that can write. I don't call myself a writer, but we're giving that a shot, and we're really digging in deep to the whole process with redesigning this whole Junior Hockey Advisor, bringing in other people. We've brought on Mike Bloom. He's doing a wonderful job with our Junior Hockey Live, where we attack 1 or 2 leagues a night. That's our Wednesday night show. And what we do that for is so you can kind of get a sense of who's in that league, where they came from. We'll highlight a couple teams in the league, and then we'll talk about the league in general. We'll give you some background on the league, where it fits in the overall hierarchy, and something I said decided to get Siri going. Sorry about that. So anyway, that's really working well, and I hope you join us or go into the archives on YouTube and pick up the Junior Hockey Live broadcast that they're working out pretty well. So with that said, let's jump in. We see that we've got a question here. Let's jump on. My O2 is aging out this year. What's next, and how do we get there? Well, I do have a video that's dated. It's a little bit before pandemic time. It's called, it literally is discussing this same issue, and let's see if I can pull it up real quick. Anyway, if you go to YouTube and pull it up, there's a video I do. Title wise, I'm not going to try it tonight because I don't want to. I usually have 4 monitors, and I'm working off just a laptop monitor now, and I don't want to crash anything. So I'm going to tell you, go to YouTube and go to Junior Hockey Advisor on YouTube. If anybody out there knows the name of the video, it says I'm in my last year. What do I do now? We give you some handy tips on the process from there. The biggest thing is maybe you can give me a little more detail. What level are you playing at? Being an O2 aging out, there's different strategies for different leagues. If you're playing in a Canadian league, if you're playing in the North American Hockey League, or if you're playing in USPHL, EHL, NA3HL, really Tier 1, Tier 2, or Tier 3 will tell me a little bit on how to steer that. But I'll also just walk through the process and kind of tell you a little bit about the different levels. If you're playing at the USHL level and you're an O2 aging out, there's really usually no issue. First of all, there's 100% of the teams at the Division III level will find a way to get you on the team if you're playing the USHL already. So you've got a safe space to land in. The other thing too is 95% of that league is going to get a D1 commit at some point, and it's still early on in the process. A lot of Division I schools won't make up their minds until late in the season, right at the end of the season, playoff time, and sometimes even into the playoffs. You're seeing people at the Tier 2, Tier 1 level, their commitment comes late in the year. So be cognizant of that. If you're playing Tier 3, this is the time of year to be reaching out. And the reason is a lot of the D3 programs don't have the same budget. They don't have the same size budget. They don't have the same ability to bring you on board through the recruiting process right now. Now, some can reach out and already have built relationships with people. There's other Division III programs that don't even really jump in hard until they see where all the D1s go in the top level D3s grab their players. And when I say the top level D3s, just go grab anything on social media that shows you the rankings for the D3s. They're pretty consistent. The group that's up there in the top 10, top 20 nationally, those are the schools that are, the vast majority of those schools are always in the top. They're always the top echelon schools. It's no different than college football. You're always going to see Alabama up there. You're always going to see Michigan up there, Ohio State up there. The same with your top Division III schools. So I see you just put on there that you're playing in the USPHL Premier, and you're a goalie. So what I would suggest is this is the time to launch your video campaign, launch your, hey, here's what I'm doing the second half of the year as far as showcase games, playoffs to teams. And coming out of the USPHL Premier, I'll be honest with you, unless they're finding you and they have a specific connection to find you, your Division I programs are not going to be recruiting out of that league. Most likely, you're not going to see that top echelon recruiting out of that league. Sometimes they do. I'm not saying completely write it off, but I would probably shoot for the bottom 2/3 of D3 programs, and I would get especially ones that you can see that don't. You can tell a school that doesn't have a huge budget; they're usually a smaller school. And if hockey isn't their number one sport, that's better for you to market to them, because that means they usually have maybe a part-time or full-time coach, but then the assistants become either very part-time or just volunteer. That's not a bad situation to be marketing to, because they haven't jumped out there in the market yet. They haven't been looking. And the other part of this is, as you market and as you jump in to market, what should you be sending? You should be saying, hey, I'm an O2 looking for a home next year. Here's my Elite Prospects page. Just give them the link to your page. Don't worry about throwing any stats in there. They're not interested in that. They want to see your EP page, and they're going to want to see, you can put your GPA on there or a link to your GPA or your coursework, whatever you want to do. Different people set it up different ways. The other thing you want to do is you want to actually throw some video clips in there. And the easiest way to do that is to build a YouTube page. Just take 5 minutes, 10 minutes, build your own separate YouTube page just for highlights, and make the clips very short. Make the clips 15 seconds or less. show a good series of a save, show a good series of a save rebound control, save puck frozen, one game in the last minute of the game and show a series of saves. Now, you don't necessarily have to put a lot of graphics or music or anything of that sort in there. Just put some good information out there, video information, and the basics about your player, and then you've got a campaign. It's like running for office. It's like trying to get a job. It's like uh, a salesman where they say you've got to drip on somebody 7 times before they respond, before they get interested. There are players that will reach out to coaches with subtly different information every week or two. In other words, hey, coach, I sent you this last week. Here's what happened this week. I had a nice goal. I sent you the goal, or, I was on 3 penalty kills in the last 5 minutes of a game. I sent you some highlights of those, and the tape is on Hockey TV or whatever the case. Or if you want more tape, you can contact me or my coach. Those are the kind of things you want to do. You don't want to inundate them with all your film. You don't want to send them a 2-page letter. Here's who I am. Here's what I'm looking for. Here's my information. Here's my video. And it's got to be repeat rents for the rest of the year. Don't crush coaches with every single game you play. Sending them a ton of stats. I know goalies and parents tend to like stats a lot. That's great. There's no problem with that. Coaching staffs want to see what you can do, because there's a relationship between the league you're in to the goals against average, the place your team is in, first place or last place, and your goals against average. So goals against average is a relative stat. It's a little bit unique in the sense that, well, it's not unique to a forward or a defenseman, because a forward on a last place team is most likely not going to get the same points that a forward on a first place team gets. It's relative to where you are, what league you're in, and what the competitiveness is, and what place your team is in the league. So my advice on this is, get working, get sending out information. If you've got other social media platforms you can hit them up on, do that. Usually text, email is very good for coaches. Or if they've got a platform on any of the social medias where you could DM them. I wouldn't post it publicly if they've got a Twitter page or anything like that. I don't think that's appropriate. So hopefully that helps a little bit and gets you rolling a little bit. And if it doesn't, let me know, and I can give you some more ideas on that too. Anybody out there that's participating, keep in mind, at any point you can reach out to me. We can set up a chaos call. We spend 1 hour together and we talk about any part of the decision-making process, any part of the process you want to. I'm not a family advisor. I don't, once in a while I can connect you with somebody, but that's not my role. My role is to make sure you understand the paths, understand what choices you have to make at whatever level you're at. If you're at 15, 16, 18 prep, high school, I can help give you what the decisions out there and what you can possibly do with those decisions. So if you want to call me for that, just DM me. You can get a hold of me through our page, or you can go to juniorhockeyadvisor.com and get it there too. So, good. I got the comment back from that. It says, thank you. We will look forward to your YouTube topic. Hey, look, we've got tons of content on YouTube. Before I would reach out to talk to me live and pay for a 1-hour call, I would absolutely jump onto our YouTube page, because all the content is there. You just got to look through, literally hours of it to find it sometimes. We've been doing this a long time, and we've covered just about every topic, dealing with this process you can. So the information is usually there. Just reach out and find it. Reach out and grab that information. Anybody else got a question? Anybody else has got a topic they want to talk about? Put it in the comments. I'm not being rude, but since I spilled coffee on everything, I've got to use my handy dandy phone to see if there's some coming in from the other platforms to make sure we are a lot of likes going on, but not a lot of comments. Let's see. Okay, just want to make sure we're jumping on. So while we're waiting for that, a couple things. There's a huge Tier 1 Elite showcase coming up in Phoenix. And why do I say huge? Because there's showcases that attract attention. And why is Phoenix different than most? It's accessible for coaches, and it's relatively inexpensive versus going to LA or going to some other places that are warm. Okay, yes, I said it. You're going to get a lot more attention in Phoenix if you're playing Tier 1 Elite this weekend, this upcoming weekend, than a normal showcase. You will have some of the CGHL programs will come down. You'll get some teams in the L, but you'll get maybe Camrose. Lloydminster likes to go there too, the people from there. You'll get some Midwest colleges coming down to look at it. You'll get some NOL exposure there. You'll get a lot of family advisors there. You're going to get a lot of people opening up the closet, pulling out their Speedo and jumping on the plane to get down to, maybe they'll put the Speedo on after they get there. But they're going to jump on a plane. They're going to get down to Phoenix this weekend. Not going myself. We've got it covered, and we've already overlapped that league several times with our scouting staff. So I usually don't go to Phoenix. I've been there a couple times. Been there. It's probably been 3-4 years since I was there last. Great event, but the thing about it is you're going to get more exposure than normal if you're a Tier 1 Elite player, only because of the time of year and because of the proximity. So if you're down there, know you got more eyes than normal on you, and it's a little different. You don't get the coaches wearing the black on black on black like you do up north. You're actually going to see some people that are dressed normally, and they're actually working though. There is, I'm being very honest. You can pick out it's hilarious. I've taken pictures before. I've posted them before of whole sections of the stands at the big events. What are the big events? Blaine is a big event for the North American Hockey League at the year end. Their showcases, their featured players for Young Guns or whatever they call it. You'll get a big crowd at the Null event. You'll get a big crowd at the AJHL event. You'll get a big crowd at numerous different events for juniors and younger. Obviously, Minnesota high school playoffs are big too. But you'll see a whole section of black coats, black pants, black shoes. You know they're scouts. You know they're coaches. You know they're involved in hockey in some capacity like that, just by the way they dress. So you won't see as much of that down there this week. All right, let's see a couple comments coming in here. Hey, I'm 17. Okay, we usually don't get young people on here, and I'm currently playing midget AA in Quebec. What are the realistic? What are some realistic next steps? I guess the question I would ask you back on that is, and is it Scanati? How do you pronounce that? Once again, I'm working off a really small screen. Scando B. Help me out, anybody, if they can see that. I'm not sure what that name is. I'm just going to call you Scan. Scan, it really depends on where you're trying to go. Realistic for what? Realistic that you can continue to play hockey? Of course, there's always a league you can continue to play in. Are you trying to get into the CCHL? Are you trying to get into the OJHL? Are you trying to play college hockey in the States? It's really one of those things where it depends on what you're trying to do. Okay, I can call you Blake. Thanks, Blake. Blake, you got to give me more information on that. I can't run with just what are the realistic odds. That's like in many situations in life, you got to know enough detail to be able to give some people some perspective on it. You want to give me a little more detail, like where you're trying to ultimately get to. And if you say the NHL, I can't help you. You got to think about the next step, maybe 1 or 2 steps, and then we could talk through the process here and see if I can help you. So shoot me a comment. I'll be glad to jump on. I'm going to jump to another one while we're waiting. Junior B in Canada, is it better than the NA3HL in the U.S., or how does it relate to U.S. leagues? That's a great question, Charles. There's different leagues in Junior B. You've got leagues like the Greater Ontario Junior Hockey League, the Gojo in the Ontario area, that it could possibly be one of the most professional leagues out there at junior hockey. And that's saying something because there's a lot of great, well-run junior B leagues across Canada, and there's some in the United States too. I'm a big fan of the Gojo because, unlike the States, they tend to be in cities that want hockey. They tend to be in cities that will attract some attention. They actually put butts in seats. People are loyal fans, and the players are treated very well. So one can argue that the Gojo, as far as quality of hockey, rivals a couple of the low end CJHL leagues, which is the Junior A in Canada. And there's other leagues out there too. There's when you get out west, there's leagues like that too. So and of course you brought some up. I think you brought up the Vancouver Junior Hockey League. Vancouver Junior Hockey League is great except for exposure. And what I mean by exposure, unless you're super young and you're still you're still on path for BCHL and WHL, and you're a young kid just breaking in, but you're a young top prospect, which you'll see coming out of those leagues from time to time, and they'll jump over to the BCHL, maybe get a season there, or they'll go to the AJ, get a year. But really, if you're not heading to AJ or for that specific league, unless you've got a ramp where your talent is taking you to the AJ or the BC, or you've already been tagged as a player, a young player that's going to be ended up playing in the WHL on the major side, it doesn't give you much exposure in the States. So for a young player, it could be a stepping stone league, and there are a lot of players that will use that as a stepping stone league to break into the AJHL, break into the BCHL, more so to the AJ. So it's not bad in the sense that it'll get you to where you want to go if that's the level. And remember, the AJ and the BCHL are that is the Garden of Eden for Canadian hockey players that want to come to the States. Those are the two leagues you want to be involved in. So I'd kind of reverse engineer this. I would look at anything junior B wise, and if I was going to play junior B in that area specifically, I would be looking at who recruits that team, who they have great relationships with in the two leagues that are CGHL leagues, the BC and the AJ, and I'd say, hey, look, they've got a relationship with Drayton Valley. They've got Smoke Trail. You'll see if they've got teams that they specifically line up to, or maybe they got multiple teams, but there's always a pump of young players up to the next level. Then I'd absolutely get involved with that. And it's so hard in that area because there's so much pride in some of these little cities or smaller suburb teams, and people like them and they want to play for them because they grew up around them. It's perfectly okay to play in those leagues as long as you don't overstay your welcome and miss your opportunity to move up, because I would absolutely be talking at the next level up and saying, hey, look, my kid's young. If you're in 03 and 04 and you're playing in those leagues, the window may have been closed, or it might be closing very quickly for you. So I'd be looking at it from that perspective. So let's jump on and see what else we got going on. If I didn't answer that fully to your what you're looking for, let me know and I'll jump on and see if I can help you out with that. The comment comes on. Good to know. My son's team will be at the Tier 1 in Arizona. I wasn't sure they would get a turnout. Oh yeah, you'll get a turnout because every Canadian coach that can do it and every American coach that can do it wants to get down there and get a few days of sun. They might only watch 2 days and book 4 days, but yes, you're going to get exposure in that. And I don't think they're going to be spending 8 or 10 hours a day in the rink. They're going to watch a few games and they're going to get out and do something else. The last time I was down there, we spent a half day. We went up to Sonoma, and is it Sonoma? Is the one in Canada? Anyway, north a couple hours. Beautiful area. And then we also did we went four-wheeling on the little four-wheelers and had a great day out in the sun. So yes, you're going to get some exposure for that. Blake, if you got any more information, I'll jump back on that. Got a lot of other people jumping on now. Hey, Bob Fallon's on. Bob says, with a number of skilled players seeking to maintain U.S. college eligibility growing across the world, do you think? Of course, it doesn't fit on my screen because I spilled coffee over everything. Do you think the USHL, America's only Tier 1 team, should expand? No. I do not believe it. And Bob's the ex-commissioner of the league. He's extremely well knowledged in this area. And I'm glad to see you on there. Haven't seen you in a couple of years, probably down in Naples for the College of Coaches event was probably the last time I saw you. No, I don't believe that we need to at that level, especially when the North American Hockey League is right behind us. Remember, it's harder to count the amount of junior teams there are in the United States now, because of the split with the U.S. You got to use elite prospects to count teams, but you know, there's only a small group of people that can play at that level. Um, and I don't think it needs to be watered down. Yes, there's a lot of skill, but isn't it great to see now that that league is so skilled that we're now in that league competing with any junior league in the world for the amount of not only NHL draft picks, but NHL players, and we're now competing with number one overall picks. And yes, the National Development Program helps that out a lot, but that's exactly the point. That's the best of the best playing in that league. And because that team is there, if you start watering down that league, and I would say it that way, watering it down by adding a couple of teams from the very small core we have, now the National Development Program might have to make other choices. I don't think they would, but boy, oh boy, right now we've got a competitive balance in that league. We've got great ownership in that league. There's stability in that league for the most part compared to years past, and that's ownerships are in a good spot. It's in a good spot across the board. And yes, people talk about expanding that league all the time, but let the null do that. Let the null be the adjustment. Let that be the valve and the regulator for top talent. Top talent can still go to that league. There are still, there's a bandwidth of players between the null and the USHL. There's a bandwidth of players between the BCHL and the USHL that can fluctuate. You know as well as I do, and for those that are participating as audience tonight, there are players that are playing in the BCHL that absolutely should be playing in the USHL. And for whatever reason, we see a lot of this from prep school kids. They get their commitment when they're in prep school. They go up and do one and done in the BCHL. And at some points, it's 50% of that group of kids go up to the BCHL, especially pre-pandemic. The numbers were pretty solid. And the other side, we're going to the USHL. So we've got the ability to capture even more talent and make that league even better. Um, until we've got the best, and it's no doubt about it that everybody's going to the USHL, I wouldn't add teams, because then now we're just looking to fill teams with players that are those bandwidth players. And bandwidth players mean they're on the verge. They can swing back and forth between the two. There's enough talent there to fill in the bottom of the roster, but I don't think the BCHL nor the NOL are sitting on captured talent that they stole from the USHL. Maybe a little in the BCHL, there's a stolen player. They're players that absolutely can play in the USHL, were given the opportunity and said no and went to the BCHL. I think we keep continuing to grow this group of players and let that league stay the way it is and let the other leagues be the regulators and the valves on this. Expansion and all, we talked about this last week on our live show on Wednesday. If you look at the amount of teams, we've done a pretty good job overall in Tier 1, Tier 2, and Tier 3 of keeping the numbers normalized. We're not overexpanding. In fact, on the Tier 3 side, we've seen a reduction in numbers, and it moves year to year. There's a flow there, and it's supply and demand, and it's management. There's a lot of things that go into why teams actually fold. But we battled through. Is the NCDC going to become an issue for the NUL and an issue for the USHL? No, that's not. So what is the battle? The battle is always putting on a good product, growing the audience that's there. Maybe getting into more national TV, looking for revenue sources would be a great idea. But Bob, I just don't think it's good for hockey to expand the top league. I usually, even in the NHL, I get very concerned that we overexpand the NHL to the point where it just is a diluted product. Now, there's great talent. You're right. There's great skill out there. Who cares? I'd love to see the fourth line be just as good as the first line, or pushing that first line because of talent. And right now, that's not happening at the USHL. There's a distinct difference between a star player and a super skilled player and kids that are good enough to play in the USHL. I'd like to hear your feedback on that, and if anybody has a comment on that or wants to discuss that. And Bob, you should actually be coming on and doing an interview with us on the on our live interview show, because you've got a lot of insight. I'd like to hear what your thoughts are on that. So tell me, Bob, if I answered that. If you want me to clarify anything, I'd be glad to do that. And then let's jump on. Thank you so much for the question, too. Thanks for coming on. Here's a question here, or a comment. My son is a 16-year-old offensive defenseman who's been dealing with a concussion per season already. only played 8 games last year, AAA, now playing with Tampa Bay Juniors Elite because the rink is right next door to our condo, and coaching is great. We're thinking maybe he can make the jump to the Null after next season, considering Shreveport, Texas teams. Okay, so let's clarify a few things. Um, it's it'd be extremely rare for a player to jump from an elite level team to the North American Hockey League team. I'm a director of player development for a team in the Null, and we just absolutely don't even look at the elite level. We just don't do it. It's just not there. Um, so your progression might be different. And second of all, nobody at 17 is playing in the Null, especially for Shreveport or in Texas. And I'm not making fun of this situation because you're like a lot of parents looking at this situation saying, okay, we played here, we played junior, let's go play in the Null. First of all, you just don't choose which team you go play for in the Null. Yeah, you can reach out as a free agent if you're not drafted or tendered. You can go to a main camp or a pre-draft camp for anybody. Okay, but they choose you. You don't choose them. When you're playing tier three juniors, you have much more flexibility because you have a checkbook. And when you have a checkbook, almost almost any team at tier three will accept you if you got a checkbook and you're decent. You're in the parameters. You're in the bandwidth of the players you're looking at. If it was a curve, you're within a couple of deviations from the center of that curve that keep you in the tier three realm. If you're way out as an outlier on either side, maybe they don't accept your check. But what I'm saying by that is tier three, you're drafted, you're tendered. Or excuse me, tier two, you're drafted, you're tendered. They seek who they want on their roster, and they invite people into the fall off of what they think is the best. And I'm sorry, I've got to get something to drink. I'm getting a dry throat after trying to put my computer back together after spilling my coffee all over it. But I wouldn't be discouraged by what I'm saying. That you're, it's a million to one shot you'll be playing in the Null next year, unless things just went your way. And what I mean by that is you got to jump to an elite team, a jump to an NCDC team inside the system you've got this year. You get tendered or drafted, which means you have to be seen. Um, the premier level and the elite level in the USPHL just aren't looked at. The first league that the Null looks at is the NA3HL because there's a mandate that they take a player for a tender or multiple players for tenders and multiple players, one or more players, as draft picks. So they spend time looking at that league because they know they're going to have to tender and draft out of that. You'll see most of the tenders done early in the year for that, and the draft's done late in the year for that. Usually it's one of the last draft picks they make every year as their NA3HL draft pick. The NCDC will get some looks, and once in a while, and in a normal night when I had all my monitors up, I'd actually screen share with you and show you how many players. You can do the same thing. You can go to Elite Prospects. You can, if you've got the premier level, you got to spend $5 or $10 a month to get it. You can filter out the players that have backgrounds from the elite level and see how many players have made the jump from elite or even premier to the Null. And the numbers is nominal. It doesn't, there's players, there might be 50 players that have premier background, premier elite background, but there was a progressive stop somewhere in between elite and the Null, or the premier and the Null. It's a rare jump that you see them jump that way. They might have gone up and played in the CC for a year. They might have had a half a year in the NCDC, but usually there's a jump in the way there somewhere. I wish you luck on that. And but when you say you're considering playing for one of those leagues, unless they're reaching out to you, you don't consider the Null. They consider you. You can make sure that they know about you. You can send them information, and you can get invited to camps, pre-draft and main camps, if they feel like they want to invite you. But it's invite only. And not only that, but you're going up against all the best players in the CCHL, the OJHL, the AJHL, and returning Null players, kids coming out of prep school, kids coming out of Minnesota high school hockey, all already deemed elite. So just keep that in mind. I wish you well, and you might just want to rethink a little bit about the next step, because I highly, highly doubt that that's going to be to the null. And I would tell you that 100% of the time. So let's see. See what else we got here. We've got Sam that says, what league is better, the the CHL or the USHL in your opinion? And would you choose the WHL or the USHL? Okay, here's the answer. The best league in the world right now for juniors, for anybody college bound, is the USHL, period. Now, I said college bound. But now, over the last 5 years, 6 years, you're starting to see that we are now competing with the best going to the NHL. So, for the best players in the world, you break down any one of the individual components of the WHL, the USHL has more draft picks. They have more draft picks without the National Development Program. Okay, think about that. Now, I do have that in my notes, but my notes are covered with coffee tonight. But it's easy to figure out. It's literally double the amount of players per every league. I think there's an average of 3 players drafted in the USHL teams right now. 3 players drafted, and I think the OHL leads right now, and if they're not, it's the W or the O, and it's like less than 2 on average are drafted for the whole league. Now you could argue that those leagues have more teams, but they've been the crown jewels for years as far as, the OHL was the top, the W was the second, the Q is the third. But now here's where it changes in my mind. If you're Canadian and you've got the societal part of it, you've got the tradition, you got the history, you grew up down the street from London, you grew up in Windsor, you grew up in Sarnia, you've watched these teams and you've watched these players and you treat them like they're, you don't treat them that way. You see them as idols, and you've always wanted to play on those teams. There is a rich Canadian history that wants to play major junior. They want to have that feeling. It's like an American wanting to walk down the hall with a varsity jacket on with a varsity letter. It's important for a lot of kids to have that experience. So it really comes down to, the answer is it depends what your perspective is. If your perspective is that's a lifelong dream, well, you and I know that you play in the OHL, you still get college money. And sometimes you get enough money to really have a great experience. Now between the U Sport leagues in Canada, that's their club level in Canada, and the ACHA in the United States, there's some incredible experiences out there. So you can go and you can play in the OHL. You can go and you can have a year, 2, 3 years in the East Coast League. There is a threshold on how high you can go before you lose your college money. Then you can go to Arizona State and be in the sun. You can go to, when I was on the Marine Corps hockey team, we used to do this series of games against the ACHA teams, and it was amazing because we go to play these college club teams, and they got 2,000 people. Arizona State was that way, and Arizona State had great crowds in their little building 30 years ago, 40 years ago. That's how long club has been around in some of these colleges. And they had great players. They would have players from the OHL. We go in there thinking, we got to put on an exhibition game tonight. And we'd have the wrong attitude, And we'd go out there and we'd have our hands full with these guys that had pro and OHL or major junior double Western League experience. And they're phenomenal players. So it's all on perspective on this. For me, if I was an American and I knew that even if I had pro ambitions, I'd be in the USHL. Why would I want to limit my options for D1 to walk down the street with a Michigan jacket on with a big yellow M or a Notre Dame? Those things mean something more to an American for the most part than it does to a Canadian. Just like in high school, getting a letter in something usually means something. It's that inclusion part. And for the Canadians, major junior gives you that feel in a lot of these communities. When you get to throw on that jacket, Gordie Howe, wanted a jacket when he first got into the pros. That's what he wanted as a signing bonus, and he got it. He got a varsity jacket with the Red Wings logo on it. It means something to be part of a pro program or a good junior program in Canada. Local, your family can see you play. Totally different, in the States. So my answer is I would send everybody to the USHL purely on the fact that you keep both doors open. But as well as I do, this is all changing. This name, image, and likeness situation we've got where we're now literally letting alumni pay players to play for colleges. This is all going to change very soon. I don't know where it's going, but soon you cannot keep this pretend wall up between OHL or CHL players and American junior players, because it really doesn't exist at the college level now. Division I college being able to pay players is no different than what's going on in the CHL. So hopefully that helps. That's a topic in itself. We could spend a whole night talking about that, but I hope that helps. Hey, Bob, thanks for coming back on and with the comment that says, I don't disagree. Just wanted to start the conversation. I'm glad you did, because that's a great conversation to have. And I just absolutely, when something's not broke, I don't want to see it, somebody try to tweak with something. You did such a good job when you were there of putting it on the pedestal it's on right now and being one of those building blocks to get it there. I just don't want to see something that's in really good shape right now get ruined. And it doesn't mean that the null is ruining itself. I think the null plays a different role. The null has got to be a little bit bigger net to capture players to bring them up to both the players. I mean, remember, the biggest source of players for the USHL is still the null. The null, gets players for 1 year, 2 years, and they go to the USHL. That still happens all the time. All your better teams in the null end up losing players, goalies especially, to the USHL, and that is a great feeder. And Division I still needs to, there's 80 some odd choices for Division I teams right now, and there's, just over a dozen teams in the USHL. We need to have a net that captures those players and funnels them up to all those programs. So I'm glad you're on. Another comment here: Go Blue. Of course, Go Blue. We're in the best days of the University of Michigan. If you don't, folks that don't know, I actually had participated in both sports at the University of Michigan. Not well in either, and ended up being a one and done because of multiple injuries, especially infected bursa sacs in my knees and my elbows from a car accident. So things didn't go well for me, but I did get my degree, and I met my wife there. It looks like both of my kids will graduate from Michigan, so we're Michigan blue and blue, and we're in the golden age of Michigan with football, hockey, and basketball. So if you're an Ohio State fan, you're more than welcome to participate. But if you need somebody to spell words for you, just let me know, and we'll get somebody to help you, either with interpreters or with the written language. So. If that's it, folks, I don't really know if I've got much more to talk about tonight. We just incredible conversation, and I thank all of you for participating. And I really want to continue to our Sunday nights and Monday nights, using those to help the newer audience. With all of our platforms now, we're pushing 25,000 people, and remember, that's 25,000 USA Hockey at the U17, U18 ages. It hovers around 25,000, 26,000 that live in that bandwidth. And every year, the 17s and 18s, they're somewhere in the mid 20s as far as size. Now, this audience is obviously starts at U14, U15, and it goes up to 21 and 22-year-olds. But if you kind of put that in perspective on how big our audience is now compared to how many 17 and 18-year-old players are, we're actually, at the same level. It just blows my mind out because, many of these social media experiences have a much bigger audience that they can reach out to. So thank you so much for tuning in tonight. Thank you so much for bearing with me as I clean up my wet papers and my coffee. I never spill coffee. I don't know how the hell I did that tonight. It sits way over here, and I got plenty of room to not spill it, but I did, and I did it over the top of the laptop and all the peripheral equipment that goes with it. So I'm surprised I didn't actually get up to the camera and dump it on top of the camera too. Very frustrating, but I'll get all the monitors up and running. And maybe I've got to go out and buy new equipment. That's always fun. When you get into this, you become a little bit of a geek on having the right equipment to do these broadcasts with. So once again, thank you very much. Junior Hockey Advisor, YouTube, please like and subscribe. We're so close to jumping up to the next level on that. Your help is much appreciated if you go on and subscribe to the Junior Hockey Advisor there. The other thing you could do for me too is just participate and help grow this audience, answer questions, ask questions. Would love to see you on our discussion group. And then finally, if you need a chaos call, if you're trying to work through something, I'm not a family advisor, but I do 1-hour consults. You can always reach out to me through the Facebook page, DM me, and we can set up something where we can chat and try to fix or answer some questions on whatever direction you're going. Good night, everybody. Take care.